Hi everybody. I decided to go ahead and start with our English Language Arts Choice Board today. And the one that I'm choosing to focus on is going to be this center one right here, which is using an informational text or article. If you went on a Seesaw already this morning, you'll notice that I already linked this article. This is the one that I'm going to use for the demonstration. However, if you found something else, there are tons on I'm actually on National Geographic Kids. There's tons there. Britannica Kids has articles. We've been looking at Ducksters for our biography articles. We also have Epic Books I just sent everybody a link to. They have offered their program to be free throughout the summer. And basically what you can do from here is you can go and explore. My platform looks a little bit different because I'm on the teacher side of things, but you can explore. Let's say we want to look for an article, so let's click on water cycles. And it says article or book. So we've done a lot of work this year on nonfiction versus fiction books. So if we're looking at one that has an illustration, usually that's not going to be the first choice for a nonfiction book. However, we can open it up and take a look at it. But we know ones with photographs tend to be nonfiction books, so we can use those to help us and see different vocabulary words, things like that in here. It's just another great tool that you'll be able to use to read during the day and to use for these activities. So basically what I've done here is I've just reformatted it, and what I'm considering doing is adding some check mark boxes here. Where you would be able to go through and check this on Seesaw. We have the edit tool. So if you actually go into your child's Seesaw, what you can do with any of the files that I submit, let's see if I can find one real quick. I can actually click copy and edit or just edit date. Yours might not say this on your side of things. Theirs might only say copy and edit, but if so, then they could copy and edit it and then use the drawing tools to go on top of. And so if I'm doing a checklist or things like that, then you could actually check it on the Seesaw platform. So that's another tool you can use. But what today's says to do is to find a nonfiction text or article to read with your child. So you guys decide if you want to do this St. Patrick's Day one or if you want to do something different. That's totally up to you. Have your child write predictions based on the title on a post-it or small sheets of paper and tape it next to the title. If you're having printer problems, I know I was this morning, what you can do is just keep a page next to you, and that's kind of what I'm doing. I've got my paper right here, I've got my sticky notes, I've got smaller sticky notes, I've got all sorts of things to help me complete this assignment on paper without having to actually print anything out. Read the whole text. One of the things that we always talk about is making sure that we are reading first. Usually when we're reading first, we're going to check for understanding, we're going to check for word choice, we're going to check for maybe words we don't know, context clues that we need to search for, things like that. And as we're going through that, we want to make sure that we're paying attention to what we're reading. And if we're too busy focused on the next step, the questions or things like that, we're not really paying attention. So we usually try to read it twice. This can be read out loud by you and them listening, and then maybe they repeat it after you, or maybe you could read a section and then they could read a section, or if you want them to do it all independently, then ask them to read it twice on their own before they come back and tell you about what they read. So only after they've read the whole text through should you move on to step 4. So you're going to read through the entire passage, read through the entire article. If you want to make them read it twice because they weren't paying attention, or maybe you were asking them questions and they couldn't quite answer it, that shows that we don't have a full comprehension of it. Then go back, read it again. Okay, now come back and talk to me about what you read. Only after they've read the entire thing should you move on to step 4, which is using the Post-its or small sheets of paper to identify the focus of each paragraph. One of the nice things when we're using articles we've talked about is these subheadings here and these titles that we can find. We can also find them when we're looking in our textbooks. although this one doesn't seem to have any in this particular book. However, a lot of our nonfiction books will have those subheadings to kind of give us an idea of what each paragraph or each section is talking about. So the nice thing here is because we've talked about those text features, they should be able to use that to help them identify the focus. But what I would make them do is I would have them go back and say, okay, you're saying celebrated saint is the focus, but what does that mean? You know, what does that look like? What does that paragraph tell you about? Oh, okay, well, this paragraph is actually talking not so much about celebrated saint, but maybe it's talking about St. Patrick's Day, or about St. Patrick, the actual saint. Oops. So one of the things that's going to be good is that to discuss is this paragraph is called Going Green. Well, that's the title, but what does that mean? What is the focus of the paragraph? So going through and rereading this paragraph to say, oh, okay, well, it's talking about how St. Patrick was associated with the color green. So saying the paragraph is about going green isn't quite going to be the term that we want to use when we're describing the focus of the paragraph. Right, so as I said, I was having printer problems this morning, so I couldn't print out the actual article. So what I did was I just wrote these sticky notes. So this was the one that I would put next to the title. I think that this article will teach me all about St. Patrick's Day. It'd be really good if you could add that because why? What makes you think that? Obviously, the title of the article is St. Patrick's Day, so that gives me a good indication as well as looking at all the pictures and things like that. Remember that this first one should be done before you read the article. Then what I did was I went into each of the paragraphs, which weren't quite paragraphs, they were more little subsections, and I just chose to read through them again after I've read the whole article. I went back to paragraph 1 and I said, okay, the focus of this paragraph was about who was St. Patrick, and it kind of talked to me all about him. Paragraph 2, what was the focus? The myths that are not true about St. Patrick's Day. Paragraph 3 was about how green became the color of St. Patrick's Day because of the shamrock. And paragraph 4 was about the ways that we celebrate St. Patrick's Day today. So I kind of just used this rather than printing out the article and taping and doing all that. This works just fine. If you don't have sticky notes, then you could just draw squares or something like that in the meantime. So when I get to step 5, it says explain to the child that he or she will now use all the notes to identify the main topic of the whole text. The main topic should be a few words and relate to the whole text. Example, animals and their habitats, Black history heroes, exploring space. When we talk about the difference between the main idea and the main topic, we want to talk about the topic is just a couple of words. The main idea is where we use more of a sentence to kind of explain what the article is about. So here, if we're talking about the main topic, I would say that this is the history and evolution of St. Patrick's Day. Obviously, you would word that a little bit differently. You would talk maybe when we're talking with our students, we're talking about the main topic here is St. Patrick's Day, but how we can elaborate on that without giving too much away from the article. So we might talk about that the main topic is this is an article all about St. Patrick's Day and the traditions of St. Patrick's Day. So then the last step here says have the child write the topic, one important fact they learned, and draw an illustration of the topic. So I would kind of make like a little, make it into a poster kind of thing. That would be the project that we would probably do. We'd probably work in partners or something like that. If you have access to print and you want to print things, you can. They could make this on Pic Collage or on Seesaw if they want to post it, or if they just want to take a picture and post it on Seesaw. I saw a couple of those yesterday, but basically I would just separate it into the sections. So what's the topic of the article? Important facts. It says 1, but we've been coming up with a lot lately, and then just a quick little picture that goes along with it. There's a lot of directed drawings online. This one actually has the video linked in with it that I used real quick to kind of come up with something. But that's basically how I would do this activity. It should take about 30 minutes to go through the whole thing. It is going to be more beneficial if you're going through it together. If you have any questions, or if they have any questions, they can post on Seesaw directly. They can share everything, and I'm available to give back feedback today. So please utilize that and let me know how I can support you. And I'll do a math video here about 10:30. I'll have that one hopefully finished and ready for you guys too. So thanks.